news for them, and your goodbyes left me with arms that cry. How can I go on, dear, without you? You took the part that once was my heart, so why not take all of me? All of me, why not take all of me? Can't you see I'm no good without you? Why don't you take my lips? I never use them. Take my arms. I never find a use for them, and your goodbyes left me with arms that cry. How can I go on, dear? You took the part that once was my heart, so why not take all of me? Why not take all of me? All of me.
Well, great evening, everyone. Great evening. Thank you for joining us this evening. This program is a part of the American Center in Moscow's weekly speaker series, and we're continuing through the 2026 50 State Series. And this evening, I'm going to take you on a journey through my state of Maryland. My name is Dr. Michelle Haley, and I am an educator and a global business professional. But I'm not going to be operating in that capacity this evening. I am going to take you on a journey, the road that led me home, from Sharptown to the New Jersey shore and back to my Maryland roots. And I look forward to you being on this journey with me this evening. So, welcome to my Maryland. And behind me is actually one of the locations, which is called St. Michael's Island. And it's one of the many islands that we have here in the state of Maryland. So I thought that it would just be a nice backdrop so that you all can see one of the places that we have that are so beautiful. So let me just take you on a journey, not just through Maryland, but through the places, the people, and the history that helped to bring me home. This is more than a tour of Maryland for me. It's really a journey through history, through culture, through freedom and family and home. Maryland's history, its culture, its music, the water, and my return home to my roots. So Maryland is really a place of many, many stories. It's the story of Harriet Tubman. It's the story of Frederick Douglass, the story of Fort McHenry and the birth of our national anthem. It's also the story of colonial America, the railroads, innovation, music, mountains, beaches, and water. But for me, Maryland is also a family story. So here you will see a picture of my roots. So my family story, my great grandmother, if you'll see the picture in the middle bottom, we were four generations. And so my great grandmother was actually born and raised in Sharptown, Maryland. And the three older pictures that you see are her family. It's her husband and her daughter and her mother and her brothers. And so going from the historical family in Sharptown, Maryland, to the two pictures that you see on the left and on the right, the bottom, is our journey from Sharptown, Maryland to now the Jersey contingents. And so they migrated from Sharptown, Maryland here, and they migrated up to the north to New Jersey and started a family and started to just increase the generations up north. And somehow I wound up migrating right back down to my roots. And so it's really just really interesting because for me, it's about a family story. And with my great grandparents leaving Sharptown, Maryland, and making their way to New Jersey, generations later, without even fully realizing the significance at first, I actually returned back to Maryland in 2009. So when I say let me take you on a journey, I'm not simply talking to you about just a tour of Maryland. I'm also taking you on a journey through the history, the culture, my family, the water, the memories, and ultimately a journey back to my roots. Every journey really has a beginning. And before Maryland became my home again, it was already a part of my family story. So let's start where it all began. Sharptown, Maryland. Sharptown, Maryland has a lot of historic and different little places. It's historical. As you can see, there are parks and there are old historic buildings, and they have a number of different museums and just different areas that you can really explore. And Sharptown is a little mini city, but it's also a little bit country as well. And it's really an exciting place to explore and to see. And so, one of the stories that I can tell you about Sharptown, Maryland, which is really interesting, is that growing up, we used to every summer come to Sharptown, Maryland for family reunions. And I remember my mom telling stories of how when she was little, she used to stay with family down in Sharptown, and it would be so dark because there were no lights. It was really in the country. And so she talked about how she would have to get up at 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning before the sun even came up and had to go pick the eggs from the chickens. And so she would talk about just how afraid she was to have to just go from the house out into the chicken coop, really is what it was, to get the eggs so that they could have breakfast in the morning. And I remember just listening to those stories and just thinking how fascinating it was. And so I was able to, I think from the time that I was about 6 or 7, and that we used to go down. And one of the funny things that we would always share is that we made sure that we had to leave before it got dark. That was kind of the catalyst. And so we would come down every summer and we had a family reunion, and it was a large family, and we just really enjoyed time spending time with each other and being able to just share and have different stories. And that was just really exciting for us, and I just remember that as a fond memory growing up. And so also Sharptown, Maryland it sits actually on the eastern shore. And it's a region over there that's shaped by waterways. It has the agriculture. You can see the bridges there. And also African American history and generations of family stories, not just for me, but for so many others. So it's not just simply placed on the map, it's really an ancestral doorway. And this, again, is where my story began. So years later, I moved to Maryland, as I said, in 2009, and I spent nearly 2 decades here. Only then did I realize the deep connection, and I became clear how I had a sense of coming back to where my family actually began. And not just a return to the same house, but a return to my roots and the things that I loved. Growing up in New Jersey, we were close to the New Jersey shore. So the water and going to the beach and being able outside in the sun and the sand was something that I really grew up with. And little did I know that water is a huge part of my story. The Chesapeake Bay, the Eastern Shore, Annapolis, and working waterfronts connect history, food, recreation, and identity. The waterways really have shaped Maryland's economy and the culture, the food, the cuisine, and the history. The Chesapeake Bay and its different attributes connect communities all across the state. And for me, Maryland's water also creates a personal bridge that connects back to family and to the memories of coming back to Sharptown in the summertime, and as well as supporting recreation. It shapes the state's cuisine and defines much of Maryland's identity. So growing up with family connection to the New Jersey shore, it really gave me a special meaning in my life. And the shore really helped me to shape my connection to the water, to the movement, to freedom, the horizons, and just really loving the outdoors and just enjoying it. And the shoreline for me really associated with family, with joy, with peace, with fun. And another thing that is super, super important to us as family is the food. I mean, the food is essential, it's critical. We're all foodies. And Maryland is known for what we call Maryland blue crabs, but there are so many other things, other cuisines that are across the state as well. But the seafood is just something that is phenomenal and just fantastic. And I realized that perhaps this is why Maryland, with its bays, the rivers, the Eastern Shore, felt so strangely familiar to me growing up, with the family connected to the Jersey Shore. So I really developed a love for the water, and years later, with Maryland, here I am returned. So I'll just take you through some of the places that we have here in Maryland, some of the waterways. So this is the Maryland, the Chesapeake Bay. We have a lot of beautiful and wonderful beaches. And the funny thing is, a lot of them are very reminiscent and look so much like the New Jersey shore. And so for me, going to the Atlantic beaches in Maryland just takes me right back home. We have a saying that we call Maryland in miniature. And what does that mean? So, Maryland in miniature really looks like um, a remarkable geographic variety. So the whole state, you have the Chesapeake Bay, as I mentioned, Atlantic beaches, you have historic cities and rolling countrysides, the Appalachian Mountains, and the variety of all of the places actually makes Maryland a place where many stories can go coexist. So you have the mountains in Western Maryland, rolling farmlands, the historic small towns, you have major cities, but also you have the beaches and you have islands like the one that's behind me, the St. Michael's Island, and then forests and different opportunities. Then you have horse country, and then also there are world-class hospitals and universities. So it's such a mixture. And so that's why it's named America in Miniature. So you see all of those different places. And it's really fascinating because you can go from the city and be by the water, and then you'll take an hour or so drive and you're in the country with the horses, or you're on a trail, or you can be in a really small town and they have little just quaint shops. It's like little antique shops antiquing. If you like to go antiquing, they have those as well. And so they're just such a vast majority of different places within the state that you can go, and it's very, very large, but it'll keep you so busy, which is fantastic. And the one thing that I really love too is that we like to plan different trips. And so you can take a day trip, whether it's an hour, a 2 hour drive. I mean, there are some parts of Maryland from where I live. I actually live in the Bethesda area, which is in the DMV, we call it, which is DC, Maryland, and Virginia. It's all right, very close and connected. And going to certain parts of Maryland can take me 2.5 hours drive because the state is so large and so vast. So what we really like to do is plan a day trip and decide, where do we want to go today? Where do we want to go this weekend? Do we want to be at the beach? Do we want to ride horses? Do we want to be in the city? But I assure you that wherever we go, whichever part of the state, it's always going to involve food because that's what makes us happy. So now I'm going to take you through some famous historic places, some famous faces, and some fun facts. So one of the historic cities in Maryland is Annapolis. And Annapolis is actually the capital of the state. And in Annapolis, there are so many different things to see. There are different places. And Annapolis is where history meets the water and Maryland State House. It's a place where America, it's a place where America was shaped. And Maryland's capital is one of America's most beautiful historic cities. It has colonial buildings, brick streets, waterfront, sailing, different culture, and the government, different government buildings. And actually, a fun fact is because George Washington resigned his commission as commander in the Comanche Army in 1783. So why visit here? You got colonial architecture, American political history, and the beautiful historic streets of Annapolis. Okay, so let's go to the railroads. The Maryland is historic for also the railroad. And that is just fantastic also because where in America did the railroad take off? It took off in Baltimore and it played a major role in developing the railroad industry across the board. And so these are just some pictures of the museum that exists in Baltimore. And why would you want to visit here? We have historic trains, the engineering, the innovation, and just a fascinating look at how transportation changed America. So we're really very proud of this. Another historic place is Fort McHenry. And let's talk about Fort McHenry, where a flag inspired a nation. It's located also in Baltimore and is one of Maryland's most iconic historic landmarks. Its successful defense during during the war in 1812, it inspired Francis Scott Key to write the words that became our Star Spangled Banner. And why visit this fantastic historic place? It has waterfronts and the views and living history programs, and it's a direct connection to our American national anthem. Another historic place, and then this also gives about roots in history, is the Harriet Tubman Museum and National Park. This is located in Maryland's Eastern Shore. This area helps visitors to understand the landscape and the communities that shaped Harriet Tubman's life, which surrounded by waterways and forests and midlands, and it provides a powerful, powerful reminder of Maryland's geography. And with Harriet Tubman, she was actually born in Maryland and escaped in 1849, and she repeatedly returned to help family members and others to seek freedom, called the Underground Railroad. And a lot of people historically didn't realize what that was. It wasn't an actual railroad, but it was the the glowing of her taking people to freedom. And so the Harriet Tubman Underground Railroad and Visitor Center, it interprets landscape and history that shaped her life. And why visit here? History, reflection, the Eastern Shore, the scenery, and the deep connection to her extraordinary life and the life that she lived and those that she helped. Then we have Sandy Springs. Sandy Springs is a wonderful community. Sandy Springs is his historic community, and it includes families who built churches, mutual aids, networks, and they endured hardships. So a lot of the people who were freed slaves in this area created and built this community. And they have a museum and an art gallery. And it just highlights the history of African Americans and African American families in this county. And it's located in what we call the historic Freeman's Village, Sandy Springs, and it connects the local memory to large stories of slavery, of freedom, of African heritage, of the state heritage. And it also reminds us that history is personal when you learn the names and the stories of the people who live there. It's a place where persevering African American families and heritage in Montgomery County, which is the county that I live in, were able to honor their stories and honor their history and honor those who came before them. And the thing that really interests me also is as I learned more about the particular state and the area that I lived in, not only did I return to the state, I returned to a county that is indicative of historical roots as well. So it's just fascinating how life just goes and you have throughout your journey. So another historic place is St. Mary City. And what's really notable about St. Mary City is that it's actually the oldest city in the state of Maryland, where Maryland began. His St. Mary City marks the site of Maryland's first colonial capital, and it offers visitors a glimpse into the early years of colonial history. And in this area, there were farmlands, there were waterways, there were reconstructed buildings, and it's actually living history. And it also connects to Maryland, the early experiment with religious tolerance. And the thing that you'll see in this particular photograph, you'll see the barns and the farmland, but then also you'll see the downtown areas and the cities. And it's really fascinating how the place where Maryland began, how it evolved and how it just kind of came to life. And the really great thing about visiting here is that it has the colonial history, it has beautiful architecture, it has waterfront scenery and immersive experiences. And the thing that's really great also is that we have so many different counties. And in each county, there's St. Mary's County, there's Prince William County, Prince George's County, and a lot of the counties were named after the the archetype. Yes, I'm sorry. But the English, the British. That's the word I'm trying to say. They were named after them, and so each area was really just synonymous and reflective of those people at that time. And these are just really some great historic places that we like to highlight and like to talk about and also to visit. So from here, these are places where history actually happened. So let's now, as we continue on our journey, let me introduce you to some of the people who made history in the state. So let's meet them. So these are some famous Marylanders who made their mark and changed the world. It's really fascinating to me because there were so many people to choose from that made an impact. And just wanted to highlight a few of those people. So the first, Babe Ruth. We called him the Sultan of SWAT. He was born in Baltimore, Maryland, and he became one of the greatest baseball players in history. His larger than life personality and extraordinary home run record is what helped transform baseball into America's national pastime. And so that's one of the things that we really, in terms of sports, are excited about and really fans of. And this is how it all got started. And then another Marylander who made their mark is Edgar Allan Poe, the master of mystery, the legendary writer and poet associated with Baltimore, which is where he died and is buried. His works, including The Raven and The Telltale Heart, continue to influence literature, film, and popular culture really throughout the world. And another famous Marylander who I actually had talked about a little earlier was Francis Scott Key. He is the voice behind the national anthem. During the War of 1812, he witnessed the bombardment of Fort McHenry, and seeing the American flag still flying the following morning, it inspired him to write a poem, and that poem became the Star Spangled Banner. And another famous Marylander who changed the world is our very own Thurgood Marshall, the champion of justice. He also was born in Baltimore, and he became a groundbreaking civil rights attorney and later the first American justice on the United States Supreme Court. Fantastic Marylander. Next, we move on to Harriet Tubman, who we actually talked about earlier because we were talking about the area and the museums. But Harriet Tubman was born into slavery in Maryland, and she escaped and then, as mentioned earlier, just repeatedly risked her freedom to help others to escape through the Underground Railroad. And her courage, her intelligence, and determination made her one of the most important figures in American history. Frederick Douglass, he was a voice that changed a nation. He was also born in Maryland. He was born on the Eastern Shore, near the waterways. He also escaped slavery and became an internationally known abolitionist, but a writer, but also a speaker and an advocate for equality. And as we come up to more modern day, we have our very own Toni Braxton, who's a Maryland musical star. And she was born in Severn, Maryland, and she became internationally recognized as a singer, a songwriter with multiple Grammy Awards and timeless hits. And it's interesting because their lives remind us that Maryland's influences reach beyond the borders. And that's something that is just really important and that is just exciting because it's not just synonymous with the state, it's synonymous with the country and the world. Let's look at some places that make Maryland fun. We love fun. One of the things that we always try to do when we go places is to see where can we find places that have, as we mentioned, great food, but also that are fun and that have either live music or have a nice kind of vibe or that we can just learn something interesting. One of the places that makes Maryland fun are the crab fests. We have blue crabs, Chesapeake seafood, corn on the cob, potato salad, coleslaw, all of these things that make those trips and weekend times really fun and exciting. And another thing that makes Maryland fun is the boating. There's kayaking, there are waterfront festivals, and there are people out on the plazas. There are people just bringing their families. So you'll see a lot of kids and parents and elderly people. And the thing that's really great about it is that there are all multiple generations of people that come out and that experience the different places and the different areas, and that we just love that, and it's just really so very exciting. And the the most exciting thing, and that thing that makes that Maryland, the places that make it fun, is to explore. We love exploring. There are always so many different places and fascinating things to see, whether it be Ocean City or the Asante Islands or Annapolis, which is the capital that we spoke about earlier, or Baltimore, which is a little mini city right on the water, and then the Eastern Shore, where there are just waterways and bays and different things that you can see. And the thing that we like also that makes it fun is discovering the different places, the art districts, the museums, the historic main streets, and the unexpected small town treasures. So, as you will see in these different pictures, there are just different representations of the things that I had just mentioned, art and culture, the small cobblestone streets, the kayaking, the beaches, the museums. All of these things just make it really interesting and fun, and we love that. So, the journey always comes back to the root of the thing. And sometimes we spend so many years traveling forward and discovering that part of our journey began long before us. And my story really reminds me that heritage is never completely behind us. It sometimes waits patiently for us to really recognize it. And as I was talking about the discovery and discovering, this one of the things that as an adult that I really get excited about is to continue to discover the different places in my new home state that was set the planted the seed and set the place for me when I was just really small. And so sometimes it waits patiently for us to recognize it. And I'm just really grateful that I get an opportunity now to see it, to recognize it, and to explore it. So from Sharptown to New Jersey and back to Maryland again, I really hope that you enjoyed this journey and coming along this journey with me. And I'm really excited to have been able to share my new home state that started at the root of the thing, as I'd like to say. So thank you, and I'm really glad that I was able to share this with you, and thank you for coming along this journey with me. And I really want to also just say that um, we really appreciate your joining this evening. And again, this program is a part of the American Center in Moscow's weekly speaker series, continuing throughout 2026 with 50 states. So we invite you to join us next Wednesday, September the 2nd at 8 p.m. Moscow time for the next event in the series, which will be on the state of Texas. Thank you for joining. So at this point, we have an opportunity for any questions. Okay. So I'm excited to see the questions that are coming in. So the first question is, what makes Maryland different from other states on the East Coast? That's a great question. One of the things that really makes it different is the fact that it's on the water. A lot of the East Coast cities are not necessarily near water, and the fact that when I was talking about just the miniature, so you can have go from the water to the mountains, you can go to just the different places. So that's what really makes it different, because you can go from one place to the next and it seems like you're going to a number of different states. Then I have another question, number 2. Are there only festivals or cultural traditions that bring Maryland families and communities together? No, there aren't. But the festivals and cultural traditions are something that a lot of families do, and they do bring families together. But there are just so many concerts. There are different um, food festivals and other things that bring families together. And the other thing that people do also is that they travel with their families to different places, and they just kind of make their own fun. And then when you go to the different places, especially like these historic cities, a lot of times they'll have different events and different things once you go there for families and people to be able to partake in. Okay, another question. If I've never been to Maryland, where do you recommend that I visit first? Ooh, that's a really good one. Okay, so it depends on what your taste is. If you're a person like me who loves the water, like St. Michael's that you see in the background, St. Michael's Island would be one of the very first places that I would suggest or recommend. If you are a person who likes a little vibe and a little city vibe, I would suggest Baltimore. Baltimore has waterways, it's a little bit more of a city environment. If you like horses, I would recommend going to the Appalachian Mountains. So it just depends on which area that you would like, but all of those different places are great if you've never been to Maryland and would like to visit. Okay, another question. Thank you for the wonderful talk. Oh, thank you very much. Are there any regional differences in terms of concerts, words, songs used in Maryland? Yes, and actually, um, I do apologize because I missed one of my slides that talked about two cultural icons, one of which is Billie Holiday, and her music was introduced as we introduced this series. And so, let me see if you go back one more. Let me see, let me go back one more. Oh, here it is. Marilyn's voice, music, rhythm, and creativity. So I missed that. So I apologize for missing that one. But there are two iconic musicians from Maryland. And so I would say that jazz, blues, also folk music in the area as well. And then here's a fun fact, and I wasn't able to find him in time, but there is a gentleman who wrote the song Country Road, Take Me Home to a Place I Belong, West Virginia, even though it's not in West Virginia. He's a Marylander. And so you have folk songs as well. So I hope that answers your question. Another one, what is your favorite thing to do in your free time in Maryland? Wow. Okay, so I have a couple of things. Summertime, the water, eating crabs, having a good time, soaking up the sun and sand. In the wintertime, when it's a little colder, going to their little resort towns, and we just like to go and have hot chocolate or have some cider, and just the little towns that have the antiquing, just walking around bundling up when it's cold, and just being out and just being among the people and in the community. That's really a good time for me. Another question: is there a Maryland accent? That's a good question. I'm not. Mm, yes. Okay. So, as I mentioned, there are different counties in Maryland. So, for example, the further south you go in Maryland, there's a slightly a little draw, a little bit of a southern accent. And so for me, I guess because I'm New Jersey transplanted to Maryland, I don't necessarily have that same accent, but there are actually different accents throughout the state for sure. That's a great question. Thank you for that question. Another question: how does Maryland's proximity to Washington, D.C. influence life and culture in the state? That's a great question too. So the locations that are close to DC, for example, where I live in Bethesda, Maryland, I'm about maybe 10 minutes from the DC line. So in the area where I live, it's more of a city vibe, more of energy. And so it definitely has an impact because it has that city urban kind of feel in the part where I live. And then when you go a little further out, the further out you go, it's suburban, and then you go from suburban to rural, then you have country. So the further out that you go, the influence is a lot less. But a lot of people that live further out, they will drive into the city just to come to the museums, to see the monuments, to bring their families, to enjoy and just to have fun over the weekends. Okay, another question. What is the best season to visit Maryland? Okay, again, it's your preference. So if you are a fall season person and you like the cold or the chill, or you like the leaves turning colors and that kind of thing, definitely the fall. And then you would go to the more mountainous regions, areas of Maryland. If you're a summertime person and you love the water, you love the beach, definitely the summertime. Again, food, fun, sun, and having a good time. Okay, another question. If someone were visiting Maryland for the first time, what foods would you tell them to absolutely have to try? You absolutely have to try Maryland blue crabs. Those are what we're known for. Those are definitely what you have to try. And then any kind of seafood that you love. So as you can see behind me, the waterways, we have a lot of ports, fishing, crabbing, and all of that. So the freshest seafood comes from our bays and our shores. So definitely the blue crabs, but any type of seafood, clams, oysters, shrimp, there's also scallops. I forgot that. So any of the seafood is fantastic to try. And then another question: what is the sport culture in Maryland? So, as I mentioned about Babe Ruth being one of the famous Marylanders coming out of being born here, baseball is a huge thing here in Maryland. And so, I mean, we have other sports for sure, but baseball, I would say, is kind of the top for the state. Does Maryland have any national parks? Yes, we have so many national parks. And one of the things, and I had mentioned the Sandy Springs area has national parks. There are national parks in the Appalachian Mountains. So they're actually all throughout the state. We have a number of national parks. Another question. Do you plan to live in Maryland forever? And what is it that keeps you there? I'm actually a global girl, and I don't know if I plan on living in Maryland forever, but Maryland for me even is a home base. So for sure I will be here. I don't even know how long, but I don't plan on leaving anytime soon, that's for sure. And what keeps me here is the ease and flow. So again, coming from New Jersey, liking the water and all of that, but not wanting to live in an area that's like really, really too intense. And so I love the fact that I get all of those different components that I mentioned to you in terms of the culture, the food, the music, and also I really love the proximity to Washington, D.C., as well as Virginia. So I get such a variety. And also, it's very, very close to the airport. So there are two airports here. There's the National Airport, which is right in Virginia. I'm literally 30 minutes from the airport. And there is Dulles Airport, which is the international, and where you all the international flights coming out of, and I'm about 20, 30 minutes from there. So that makes it really, really easy and convenient to travel. Okay. What role did Maryland play during the American Civil War? So the role, well, there were, I mean, that's where we were on the front lines. It was happening here in the state of Maryland. So the role that they played was really to, to defend the area during that time. Is Maryland part of the North or the South? Maryland is considered South for sure. What is a common stereotype about Maryland that you would like to correct? Hmm, that's a good one. Hmm, a stereotype about Maryland that I would like to correct. That is just country. And a lot of times that has not a great connotation in terms of a country meaning slow, people are not really very quick, can be sometimes a little backward. And so that's something that I would say that's not the case. You do have country areas, and yes, people speak differently. There's an accent and that kind of thing, but it's just, to me, it's just culture. It's just different areas. There are different vibes and different energies. People are exposed to different things. There's different ways of learning and all of that. So to me, that would be something that I would change for sure and correct. Another question. What is one thing that you think every Marylander would agree makes Maryland special? The food. For sure. For sure. I mean, if you talk to anybody, especially during the summertime, even during the wintertime, what are we talking about? We're talking about having crabs in the summertime. We're talking about seafood. We're talking about just all of that. So, yes, I would say that that's what makes Maryland special, the food. And then also the area. I would say, because as I mentioned, you can go from the waterway, the beach, you can go hiking, rock climbing, mountain climbing. So that you can just do so many different things. And I think that that's what makes it special, is we have such a variety in the state. Another question, if you had to describe Maryland to someone who had never been there in 3 words, what would it be? Absolutely. No, let me back up. I would say historical, cultural, and magnificent. Final question. If you could give someone just one reason to put Maryland on their travel list, what would it be? to experience beautiful historical culture, to meet fantastic and wonderful, heartfelt people, and to be able to experience something that you will never forget. Okay, I think that was the final question. So, again, I am Dr. Michelle Haley, and I am an educator, global business professional, global girl. Love the journey that we've been on together, and thank you all for joining me on this journey. It's really been a pleasure. It's been my honor, and I have really been excited and enjoyed preparing this for you and allowing you all just to come along the journey with me. And so I'm going to continue on this journey and move forward from there. So thank you so much again. I really am honored and appreciate the opportunity and want to thank you for your time and hope that you enjoyed.